Hi, I'm Linda, and this is No Frills ASMR. You ever notice how people, when they will go ASMR, I feel like I should slow down. Anyway, so I found this book on my bookshelf, and I have had this book a long time. I don't even remember. I actually thought I had, I cleared off my bookshelves a while back, and I thought I'd gotten rid of this one, but then all of a sudden it appeared, and I was like, oh. So I don't know if I rebought it, because I kind of wished I had it. It's copyright 1991, and it's called When is a Pig a Hog? A Guide to Confoundingly Related English Words. So I thought maybe we could just flip through it a little bit or read it a little. So let's see. Confoundingly related English words. Human, not so human beings. Here and there, things, concepts, actions, and other intangibles. The arts, fine and otherwise. Nature and science. Our bodies and medicine. Organizations and institutions. Well, let's go to here and there. I don't know why. For some reason, the human, I don't know why I want to skip that, but here we go. 44. Although that looks kind of interesting, but here and there. Utopia versus Never Never Land. Well, I'm not going to read all this. Any idealized place, state, or situation is sometimes called a utopia after an imaginary island described in Sir Thomas More's book of the same name, published in 1516. Yet utopia, which comes from two Greek words, eu mean not and topos meaning place, is not the only name for somewhere perfect through though non-existent. Okay. Arcadia is a place of rural peace and simplicity. There is a park in Maine, and growing up, I feel like I always wanted to call it Arcadia, but it's Acadia National Park. And I think my husband still says Arcadia, and I'm like, it's Acadia. But now I realize maybe that's a name for like a rural place. Camelot is any place or time idealized as having excitement, purpose, and a high level of culture and other positive qualities. Cloudland is any region of dreams, imagination, or impractical speculation. The visionary realm is so named because anyone who is in the clouds is not only high up in the sky, but fanciful and impractical. I've never heard it called Cloudland. I've heard in the clouds. Dreamland, as the word suggests, is a lovely but imaginary place, as one seen in a dream. Eden is any delightful place or state. In other words, a paradise. I think of Eden as kind of a land of innocence too, though, because it's like before the apple was given. In the Bible, Eden was indeed paradise, a garden where Adam and Eve first lived. Yeah, before she screwed it up. El Dorado is any place that is or is supposed to be rich in gold and opportunity. Goshen is a land of plenty. In the Bible, Goshen is the fertile land assigned to the Israelites in Egypt. In the soap opera Guiding Light, the character Riva, one time when she hit her head or something and lost her memory, she ended up living with the Amish Gilgamesh in Goshen. That's my... Okay. Lotus land has come to designate any fabulous dreamlike setting. Lotus land, that's from the Odyssey. If you're ever curious, we've been reading The Adventures of Ulysses, which is the story, the Odyssey. So I've been doing it by chapter. It's pretty good. Never Never Land is an unreal or unrealistic place or situation. That's from Peter Pan. Oz is a happy land where dreams can come true. Paradise is a perfect place or state of beauty, contentment, satisfaction, happiness, or delight. A promised land is a place where one expects to have a better life. In the Bible, the promised land is Canaan, promised by God to Abraham and his descendants. Oh, there's more. Seventh heaven is a condition of perfect happiness. Shangri-La is any imaginary, idyllic, my brain wouldn't come up with that word, utopia or hidden paradise. The name comes from the mythical Himalayan setting of Lost Horizon, a novel by James Hilton. So Earth and world, and they say Earth, globe, universe, cosmos, world. Okay. Motherland and fatherland. These feel very German to me, right? Mutterland and fatherland. One's native land or country can be called either one's motherland or one's fatherland. Yet in this sense, motherland is customarily applied to certain countries such as England, and fatherland to others such as Germany. What? What are they talking about? Mother country is used interchangeably with motherland, but English has no father country. Is this book British? Is that what we're... What? Manufactured in the United States. I've never heard. I don't know. I think if I went up to any American and said, what is the motherland, that they would say England. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Nation versus state. A nation calls attention to the people who, whatever their origin, belong to a particular territory that is united under a single government. State emphasizes political organizations and structure. Yeah, okay. Okay, I guess I can see that. Village versus town. The place where people live are not universally defined in terms of area, population, number of houses, blah, blah, blah. The starting point is likely to be a village, which is generally considered to be a group of houses in the country. A hamlet is a very small village, less commonly found in the United States and in Great Britain. Okay, this is written by a British person, but it's weird because it doesn't say that. Because we don't ever call anything a hamlet, I don't think. It's like you either live in a city, a town. I mean, you might call it a village if it's like what you're saying is a hamlet in this book would be a village, maybe. But that's old-fashioned, I don't know. A town is more or less concentrated group of houses and private and public buildings, larger than a village but smaller than a city. Yeah. Okay, I would say that's it. Village, town, city. Hamlet. City versus metropolis. And a megapolis. Capital with an A versus capital with an O. Okay. A capital with an A is among is, among other things, a town or a city that is the official seat of government of a state, nation, or the like. Rome, then, is the capital of Italy, and Washington, D.C. is the capital of the United States. A capitol, with an O, is a building where a legislative body meets. In written or printed reference to the building in Washington where the U.S. Congress holds its sessions, Capitol with an O is used. So that's interesting. So Capitol with an A is the place. Capitol with an O is the building. Okay. Good to know. United States versus the states. United States of America is the official name of the country. Okay, what are they saying is the other? The name is commonly shortened to United States, and, if clear in context, the states. I guess that's if the British are talking about. Washington versus District of Columbia. Named after Christopher Columbus, the District of Columbia is a federal district of the United States on the northern bank of the Potomac River. It occupies the same 69 square miles as the city of Washington. The name of the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., therefore, attaches to the city name the abbreviation D.C., which stands for District of Columbia. Okay. I don't know. Okay, skip. What else do we have here? This whole milk versus non-fat milk. I remember when I worked at Red Lobster, I got into we would argue and fight for fun. That was entertainment. But there was a whole group of guys insisting that skim milk or non-fat milk was watered down milk. I'm like, no, it's not watered down. They skim all the fat off it, and it's what's left. And they were like, no, it's not. It's what I'm like, that doesn't make. It's not. And there was no way to prove it back then. You didn't have cell phones. You had to just fight about it. Whole milk is milk that, according to the federal standard, contains not less than 3.25% fat and not less than 8.25% non-fat milk solids. Skim or skimmed milk is like non-fat milk. Whole milk from which almost all fat has been removed. What do they say non-fat milk? What? Whole milk, pasteurized, homogenized, skim is like non-fat. But they don't have non-fat. Why are they doing this to me? This is buttermilk. A lot of people think it's like richer but it's actually not. It's the liquid left after whole milk or cream has been churned into butter. It has been largely replaced by commercial or cultured buttermilk. Beer versus ale. Beer is one of the world's oldest alcoholic beverages. The English word originally distinguished such a drink flavored with hops from an older one, ale, then was brewed without hops. So ale had no hops. While Americans generally use beer as the generic term for all malt beverages, many Britons call any beer ale. Either way, these are some malt beverages of beer and ale families. Oh, she gives them here. Okay. There's lager beer, a light-bodied effervescent beer. Pilsner is a light lager beer made in a Pilsen, the German name for the city of Czechoslovakia. A porter is a bittersweet dark brown ale. A stout is like a porter, but is slightly more bitter. And a Bock is a special kind of beer first made in Einbach, Prussia. Okay. Let's see what else is interesting. A helicopter versus a chopper. Same thing, different name. A certain kind of aircraft is lifted vertically, blah, blah, blah. It is known as a helicopter, or in informal speech and writing, it can be a chopper or a whirly bird. There is a slang term, egg beater? No, there isn't. I've never heard that. Let's see. A sauna versus a hot tub. A hot tub is a large wooden tub, usually of redwood, in which people can soak in water that is heated, filtered, circulated, and drained periodically. A sauna is a system of dry heat bathing used in Finland for centuries and now popular in many parts of the world. Sitting or lying on wooden benches. I like a sauna. I love it when you go in and they're like, you can smell that wood smell. And then the ones where you can put some water on the stones and it steams for a minute. And you're like, it's good. Back before cell phones, this was a pretty useful book. I'd look up, like, what's the difference between those things? Certified mail versus registered. For a fee, the U.S. Postal Service records the sending and delivery of a piece of first-class mail. It does just that for certified mail, which cannot be insured. However, it pays more attention to registered mail, which generally has a high monetary value and can be insured. What does this say? Peter Principle versus Murphy's Law. Never heard of Peter Principle. For example, according to Peter Principle, formulated by L.J. Peter and R. Hull, each employee in an organization tends to be promoted until reaching his or her level of incompetence. Murphy's Law, enunciated by E.A. Murphy, Jr., states that if there is a possibility for something to go wrong, it will. And Parkinson's Law, propounded by C. Parkinson, declares that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. Yeah. Prejudice versus discrimination. Prejudice is just what the Latin origin of the word indicates. Pre, meaning before, judicum, meaning judgment. Such a judgment or opinion formed before the facts are known may be favorable, but more often it takes the form of unreasonable suspicion, intolerance, or hatred of races, religions, places, occupations, and the sex of the ones and the sex other than one's own. Okay, discrimination has both positive or neutral sense and a negative one. Has both a positive or neutral sense and a negative one. What? Derived from the Latin verb meaning to divide or distinguish, the word often denotes perception of discernment. That is, the ability to make or perceive distinctions. For example, discrimination between right and wrong. Okay, discrimination in sorting eggs by size and quality. And discrimination in selecting works from Picasso's Blue Period for a particular exhibition. The negative sense of the word comes into play when distinctions lead to the unfair treatment of certain groups of people by denying them rights and privileges enjoyed by others. whether in employment, housing, education, or other areas of daily life. Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Envy versus jealousy. Envy is generally considered to be one thing and jealousy another. Envy is a desire to have something, advantage, or quality that another has. And jealousy is resentful suspicion of a rival or a rival's influence. Yet, jealousy is often used in place of envy to convey the notion of ill will at another's possessing something that one keenly wants to have or achieve for themselves. I don't know why I was having trouble reading that. Golden handshake / golden parachute. There used to be a book, I think, called Golden Parachute. A golden handshake is payment offered to induce any employee to retire early. A golden parachute is a large sum of money or other compensation given as severance pay to a top executive who is dismissed from a corporation as a result of it being acquired by another company. Okay. Treasury bill versus treasury note. A treasury bill or T-bill is a short-term obligation maturing in a year or less. Treasury bills are sold periodically on the open market at a discount from face value, and they yield no interest. A treasury note matures between 1 and 10 years. The yield on treasury notes is based on the purchase price and interest paid at fixed rate twice a year. A treasury bond matures over a long period, usually between 10 and 30 years. Treasury bonds are like treasury notes in that the yield is based on the purchase price and interest is paid at a fixed rate twice a year. I'm kind of confused about some of that still. I have to learn that. I'll try to learn it and share it. Inheritance tax versus estate tax. An inheritance tax is a state tax levied on the individual shares of a deceased person's estate after that estate has been divided. An estate tax is a federal tax levied on a deceased person's gross estate before that estate is divided. I hate number stuff. My brain like blanks. Yin and yang. Among the words that English borrowed from Chinese, two have to do with traditional Chinese philosophy or cosmology. Yin, which means female, night, lunar in Mandarin, refers to the passive, negative, feminine force or principle in the universe, the source of darkness and cold. Yang, which means male, this is sexist, which means male, daylight, solar in Mandarin, refers to the active, positive, masculine force or principle in the universe, the source of light and heat. Each term is always both contrasted with and complementary to the other. That is, the interaction of yin and yang is believed to maintain the harmony of the universe. Wait, what did that say? Middle Ages versus Dark Ages. The period of European history between ancient and modern times is known as the Middle Ages, or the medieval period. Although no precise dates can be assigned, some historians place the beginning of the Middle Ages at about AD 500, following the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, and its ending at about 1500, when Europe was gradually moving into the Renaissance era. The entire Middle Ages used to be referred to as the Dark Ages, but this term more properly applies only to the years roughly between 8500 and the end of the 10th century. The term grew out of the view that this early period of the Middle Ages was characterized by intellectual stagnation, widespread ignorance and poverty, and cultural decline. I think they're starting to think differently about that they just didn't have as much written history from that period, but I'd have to actually do a deep dive on that. I'm not sure. Starboard and port. I did a video on ships, on cruise ship language, I think it was. Talked about that. But if you're looking towards the front of your ship, starboard's on the left, port's on the right. And it's green and red. That's kind of the gist of the video. I'll just sum it up for you so you don't have to watch it. What does this one say? Dinner or supper? Breakfast, everyone agrees, is the first meal of the day. The very word suggests breaking the fast that began the night before. However, when it comes to the name of the other two meals that family members often share, agreement is far from unanimous. Many people regard dinner as the chief meal of the day, whether it is eaten in the early evening or around noon. Others insist that the midday meal, especially a light one, is lunch, and that a large meal eaten in the early evening is dinner. Others go along with this description of lunch, but substitute supper for dinner. Supper applies as well to a late, usually light evening meal, such as one eaten after a theater performance. Okay, and sometimes also to a small meal eaten just before bedtime. They never talked about, they did. Early evening is dinner. Early evening? I would say yes. Supper is like a lighter dinner. Dinner is like, we're gonna eat a big thing of, steak and mashed potato. Actually, I want a baked potato. I'd like steak and a baked potato and broccoli, and that'd be good. All right, well, that was kind of interesting. Myth versus legend. A myth often serves to explain some phenomena of nature, the origin of humankind, or the customs, institutions, religious rites, or beliefs of a people. Among the ways it does so is by telling supernatural events and the exploits of gods or heroes. A legend, more than a myth, is popularly believed to have a historical basis, however distorted or unverifiable. That's like Babe the Blue Ox and all that. Once limited to recounting the miracles of saints, legends have gone on to tell of other incredible acts and wonderful events. A folk tale or fairy tale, a fable. Oh, we should read Aesop's Fables. Those are always good. An epic. Huh. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll look through this some more some other time. What does that last page show us there? Hold on. I saw something. A role named by mythology. Why do they have